do. I'm not here to put anybody on the spot and make anybody feel uncomfortable, but so that we can learn from each other. So why don't we talk about it? Oh, no. Oh. Before I go there, Dagmar had a really important question. Would you like to raise that? Because I bet some people are thinking about it as well.
Okay, my question was that I was thinking yesterday I could apply this at that stage when somebody showed he or she is interested in what I'm doing, but I couldn't imagine myself, for all I know or I can, just make a cold call. So, and that's what I asked her, if she has got any idea about it.
Yes. Anybody else here make what we call cold calls? What's a cold call?
There's no connection.
No connection, you don't know the people. I used to do telemarketing, scary. I used to just, dial numbers in sequence till people picked up. I sold cable TV over the phone in Manhattan, and it was so long ago that no one ever hung up on me, so that's how long ago it was. They were so nice. They were like, no, sweetie pie, we don't thank you. But it made me tough, and I got that sales resilience that you really need. Here's my view on cold calling, and you can agree or disagree. It's just a view. Don't do it. It's a waste of time. Cold calling does not rock. And we are here to talk about sales calls that rock. Remember I gave you a resource yesterday. I mentioned a book. It was called Take the Cold Out of Cold Calling by Sam Richter. Sam Richter is awesome. I met him at the National Speakers Association. All right, so please check that out, because what Sam does is he gives you a wealth of resources so that you can connect with people. We talked about some of them yesterday. What are they? Ding, 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 ding. Remember that? So perhaps going on Google, going on LinkedIn, digging down to see the person's contacts. Who do they know? Who you know? Here's something else I want to share with you. This is an amazing resource from Sam. How interested are you in hearing this?
Yes. Yes.
Very. It's called YouGotTheNews.com. YouGotTheNews.com. Sam compiled this. It is a website that searches news, press releases of local and national newspapers. So what could you do with that? Anything. So you talk about, you have to pick up the phone and you want to contact a certain individual. You could go on there and just see if anything pops up. Perhaps they're influential in their local communities, so you're going to see the news articles. You'll be able to see the press releases. And then I ask you, are you making a cold call? Really? No. Because what you can say is, hey, you know what? My name is so-and-so. My name is Casey Carpenter. I'm a sales call breakthrough coach. Hey, I saw in the September 19th edition of the local paper that you did blah, blah, blah. And I was so excited to read about that, because here's something I'm working on. And I'd like to make an appointment with you, because it seems as though we're really going on parallel missions here, and I'd like to see if we can join forces and work together. Now, isn't that better than just hi, and you don't really know if there's a connection? So you want to connect with people with whom there is somewhat of a connection already.
Casey, I have a little personal story
please.
kind of like that. I got an award in Raleigh. The Triangle Business Journal gives a Woman of the Year award thing or something, and I won it. And as a result of that, I got a whole bunch of letters from people congratulating me, and saying in the letter, I'll be reaching out to you. It was clear that the reason they were congratulating me was because they wanted to market to me.
Yes.
And you know what was interesting? Out of all of those letters, very few actually followed up. I mean, and I have in my system, I have waiting for response. So all of those letters that came in, I just stuck in the waiting for response file,
Yes.
so that if they called me, I'd be able to pull them out
Yeah.
and know exactly who it was.
Yeah.
And at least, I know it was 80% of them never followed up. They sent it. And I think that's one of the keys, the difference between being successful in sales and not is following up, because that gave me a very bad opinion of them, that they would send me a letter and say they were going to call and not do it.
Absolutely. So just think about that first impression that you're making, and that it can actually leave a bad impression if you do not follow up. And thank you for saying 80%, because there is a section in my book that talks about salespeople and how many do actually follow through until they make contact. And there's about 81% studies show who give up after the 5th call. And if they just persisted, they could have gotten somewhere with the relationship. Barbara's so open and friendly. If they had persisted, would you have spoken with them?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. So cold calling, did we answer that question? You know, don't waste your time. I was also saying it could be very demoralizing if you're just grinding away at the phone and not really getting the response you're looking for, because, you know, it may be too broad a net that you're casting as well. You know, who's that ideal client you're looking for? Stay in your lane, as they say, right? Stay in your lane and really just stick with those people who deserve to hear from you. Otherwise, it's exhausting. You're going to not like it. You might even lose a little bit of passion for what you do. That makes sense?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and when you are talking about calling, what do you think about contacts per, like, email or letter?
Well, what do you think? Is there anything that might help you from what we learned yesterday about modes of communication?
Mix it up.
You could mix it up. What else could you
If
do?
you call, they're getting 2 of 3. They're getting the tone and the
Mhm.
message.
Yeah.
Versus a letter's a little bit more just message only.
Emails that are getting junked too, that it's like, I did send you an email that I wanted to connect via voice. 75% of the time you're gonna get a voicemail message,
Yeah.
that's the statistics these days, so.
Mhm.
I did send you an email, but I wanted to follow up via phone call.
Yeah. Yeah, I like what you're coming up with. Also, when you leave a voicemail, so that's a question, should you leave a voicemail?
Yes.
Absolutely, totally. Why?
It's another connection with them. They're hearing your voice.
Yeah.
And that's whether they're going to connect with that.
They hear your
Also,
energy.
they see you.
So am I different on paper? Well, Barbara knows. Am I different on paper than in real life? You and I correspond by written
No,
way. Not much?
No, not much.
Okay, well, that's good to know, because I still want my energy to come through when I
Yeah.
write to Barbara.
Yeah.
And if it does, that's good.
And voicemail's short, and
Yeah.
particularly, I know most of us will speed up and say, and my number's 517-886001. So scrolling down with that.
Slow down.
and
And repeating
good
it.
point.
Slow down. Everything you do is your brand. Everything. The way you say your name. Half the time people say their name so fast I don't even get it. So slow it down. They're hearing it for the first time. They're experiencing you for the first time. Face to face, what percentage of the pie is that? Remember that big pie? 55. So slow it on down. All right, any other questions about cold calling? Yeah.
My fear with the phone call, I do a lot of emailing, which I know it's probably not as effective, but when people call me when I'm working,
Yeah.
to me it's an interruption.
Yes.
It's frustrating. And so
Mhm.
that's my fear in calling other people.
Well, I hear you, Lori. I relate to what you're saying. May I ask you if you consider yourself to be kind of an introverted person? Or are you?
I'm a little of both.
A little of both.
Yeah.
All right. I find that with folks who are, like me, more introverted, when we're immersed in a task, we find it hard to kind of break out of that. And there's the comfort in the solitude of working on whatever it is. And so somebody bursts in, it's like, oh, you know, it can be a little bit jarring, and you see it as an interruption. But if I'm running a business and I want customers, how can I see that as an interruption? I want you to call. I want customers. So how could you structure your day, or really maybe manage what you're feeling so that it may not be an interruption? You might not be a question that you have to answer now, but maybe one to think about.
Let me just throw in something that I found that helped that me. One of the things I've learned now is when I call somebody like that, I'll say, did I catch you at a bad time?
Ah,
So this is Barbara Hemphill. Did I catch you at a bad time? Then I'm giving them permission to say, yeah, it really is. And sometimes they do say that. And I say, can I call, when can I call you back or something like that.
Yeah.
I think that makes a big difference.
Yeah.
But your voice is so nice and people need to hear your voice. Your voice doesn't come through in email.
No, it
And I think
doesn't.
you're missing an opportunity by not using your voice.
yep, so have that courage, y'all. Pick up that phone after you've sent it and go ahead and let them hear what you sound like. Absolutely, yeah. All right, so should we go ahead and move on into the assignment that you all had last night? Let's review what we did. We covered the first 3 steps of this selling model, and your mission, should you have decided to accept it, was to plan a step-by-step outline of how you would handle the sales calls. There were 2 different groups, 2 different scenarios. We mixed seasoned reps with those who were new so that you all could learn from each other. We asked you to detail your research. So what sources and resources would you have used to research the people or entities in your scenario? And we asked you to list all questions, as well as each team member would get the opportunity to present a portion so that there would be no silent partners. We don't like silent partners. We like everybody to participate, right? And that you would have 15 minutes per group to present your findings, alrighty? And what I would like to ask is which team would like to go first?
The other one.
Who said that?
All right.
John said it. John said that.
Thank you.
Hysterical. So why don't I ask you all to come up and if you don't mind, I'm going to give you a little timer. Every one of you.
Okay, we had an insurance company that had over 400 employees, and they wanted to move everything to SharePoint. So they were moving from a paper to paperless, and they were going to be moving their physical office as well as moving everything into a virtual.
And they had a 2-year
SharePoint.
timeline.
They were moving into SharePoint.
They were moving to SharePoint. They had a 2-year timeline, and their biggest concern was the legal consequences for what they were going to dispose of or
Retention guidelines.
Thank you, the retention guidelines.
Okay, good.
So step 1 was the research component, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
we were gonna roll out the research. So what we said was, of course, the first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna Google,
Yeah.
right? And what we were gonna do, we were gonna look up the company itself, find out a little bit more about it so we have a better feel for the culture of the company. How large is it? We know they said 400 employees, but how many physical sites do they have? Do they have people working on-site as well as off-site? Do they have people working remotely? What kind of insurance are they selling? Thought that would help for us to know better about the legal consequences of any retention guidelines. We wanted to know if they expected any kind of anticipated growth over the next couple of years so that we would know, okay, they've got 400 people right now, maybe in this one building, but they're planning on growing and we're going to be moving 600-800 people. And so we were going to look through Google, Manta, Yelp. We were going to also look, obviously, at their website to get a feel for them, to look at comments that people make, to look at their social media pages, see what people were saying, get a feel for how people view them from the outside. Then we were also going to look up legal guidelines. We were going to look up more of those, the government-based, the concrete. We weren't going to just look up what Joe Schmo says about legal retention guidelines. We were going to see what the IRS said, what other government websites said. And then we were also going to make sure that we understood SharePoint, particularly if we hadn't worked with it before. And to make sure that we understood it enough that if they said that they needed our assistance, we would feel confident and be able to say, sure, that is something I can work with your employees on. And I think that was pretty much it.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
So then step 2 was the elevator speech, and we kind of felt like that would be how we would begin the
branding.
call, right? How we would open the call would be using the elevator speech. So this was our hardest. Yeah, this was kind of our hardest.
Okay, good.
I think because we wanted to include so much,
All
but
right.
we also knew that you can't overwhelm
Yes.
in the first couple of sentences.
So let's work it here.
Okay,
Good.
all right.
And thanks for being honest if you
Yeah.
found this challenging.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Good.
Okay. So we said, we would introduce ourselves. My name is,
Pippi Longstocking.
Pippi Longstocking.
You're the fun one.
I work as a certified productive environment specialist
Yes.
with insurance companies who are making transitions.
Mm-hmm.
I help my clients move from a paper-based environment to a digital system. I also coordinate the physical move so that downtime is minimal and the quantity being moved is limited to only what is truly needed.
Mm-hmm.
We also thought maybe it would be good to put something in there about collaborating with the legal team throughout the process to ensure that we are following all guidelines.
Mm-hmm.
So we were looking at all the points, and again, like she said, it was really hard just to make it really.
Yeah.
We had a really short one too.
Okay.
It was a short one that we can help a company move in with 2 days downtime. So, and we're like, do we want a really short one where we shock them? Do we want a long where we really say what we're doing? So we were kind of struggling and trying to figure out the right
So
way.
let's throw that out to everybody in the room. What do you think? I have some thoughts about it, but what does everybody else think? Short, long, what do you think?
I like short at first, and then if I want to know more, I'll ask more.
Okay. I'm thinking maybe short for on the phone to grab their attention.
Yes.
Then when you have a conversation, you can add everything. Did you all hear all those benefit statements in there? Did you hear a problem statement in there? That was very well done. Could we hear it one more time, please?
Sure.
And I may stop you just to say benefit statement. Okay, so just be ready.
So my name is Pippi Longstocking,
Yes.
and I work as a certified productive environment specialist
Okay,
with insurance companies who are making transitions.
good.
I help clients move from a paper-based environment to a digital system. I coordinate the physical move so that downtime is minimal
Benefit.
and I use the word quantity. The quantity being moved, and really that would be physical, is limited to only what is truly needed.
Benefit.
And then we added in I coordinate with the legal team throughout the process to ensure that we are following all guidelines.
Benefit. And
Because that was a big concern for them, is the legal part.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, so do you hear the credibility that is ringing from that elevator speech? It's pithy so that they can, really grab onto that and say, wow, there's a couple of things I could use there. I don't want to have a lot of downtime. I can't afford to have my people not working and being productive. I don't want to mess. And yet it has to be compliant. We need to know that we're documenting what we're doing and we're doing it the right way. Nice work.
Casey, I have a question.
Yes,
She
please.
said the word "I" there all the time. So is there an advantage for her to say "we"? I mean, if she's coming across, does she add power to what she's offering by saying that she's not alone, or how does that?
Well, it depends. I mean, I think it depends on your branding. Are you branding yourself as a we? Now, see, Elizabeth, you could say, the reason why I am so comfortable in doing this is that I am an attorney. All right, so she can say, and that, if I were an attorney, I would say, oh, wow, she gets it. So immediately there's kinship. So I don't know that that's so critical, because if your branding is strong and standing as an entrepreneur, a solopreneur is strong, then it's all right.
And you can always say, with my team.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so should they ask, well, how do you accomplish all this? Oh, glad you asked. I've got a wonderful backup team. I've got, a virtual assistant. We have someone who specializes in such and such. And it's good to say, I have a specialist in this area and an expert in that area, so that, again, the words you're using are so intentional and really bolster that credibility. If it's the 3 people, who cares? You're experts. You're getting the job done. And they're not going to care so much about that. You could have 10 people, but if they're not productive, then who wants that? Am I
I
making
was just
sense?
thinking that one of the things that I've seen with the CPSs is sometimes people feel kind of alone, you know, it's like kind of alone. And when you go out and you say we,
Yeah.
then, I mean, because it isn't
It's
just you,
PEI.
it's PEI. I
right.
mean, you literally, I mean, I've said over and over, if you're making a sales call and you need some extra help, I'm here for a three-way call, all you gotta do is let me know, you know, sort of thing. And, or if you're out on the job and you run into a question or whatever else, you've got a whole team behind you and we
Yes.
respond very, very quickly.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes that gives companies comfort, because if they're working with only one person and something happens to that one person, then they're left high and dry.
That's a good
So I
point.
think that there may be times when that helps you to say we.
All right, so here's a note to self. We're collecting best practices, are we not? So would that be something that you could start to say as a best practice? That you have a team backing you
Yeah.
up? So in the event that, ... Especially if they're folks that are really high on compliance and documentation, they're gonna be worried about, well, what if? So you don't even have to let them ask the question, you nip it in the bud. And just in case, Mr. Customer, you're thinking about what happens in the event of ... I've got a whole team backing me up. So you're always going to be covered. Is this something that could differentiate you from your competition?
Yes.
Ah,
Yeah.
ding, 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 ring that bell.
Yeah.
Write that down, please. Seriously, are you starting to see those little differential advantages that you have to offer and how you can sell that?
And that's such a different mindset for, I think, most of
Yeah.
us, because we're also,
Oh,
it's my company,
right.
it's
Sure.
So even though, you know, Turn-Leaf Organizing is just me,
Yeah.
but to say my team at the Productive Environment Institute, wow.
And
There's a lot of weight
yeah.
there.
And does that differentiate you from other, quote, professional
Absolutely.
organizers who may be running a solo shop?
Yeah.
I would go with you, hands down, if I heard that. All right, so please continue. Good job, team, good job. Aren't they doing an excellent job? Yes! They rock.
So our next section is question is, how would you identify the decision makers? And considering that we have already done our research, and we've looked on the website, and we've gone on LinkedIn, and we've looked at Manta, we wanted to identify who was the CFO, the CIO, the CEO, who legal counsel is in the organization. And we would want to find out from those individuals, those head of organizations, who, they're obviously not going to do the move, but do they have a moving coordinator in-house that is going to be taking care of all of this? And also to find out if legal counsel has already adopted their own guidelines for this move. And working with those particular moving coordinators in the insurance company that is going to actually move the people and the paper and all into SharePoint. So that's our.
Nice, all right.
Oh,
That is D, guys.
how would you build a report? We kind of did that. Oh, no, I'm sorry, Anthony,
Well,
that's
next,
you.
right?
Yes.
Okay, so the next one was to build rapport.
Yes.
So the first thing would be this is when we're going to the appointment. The first thing is we would do our research, where is this location? Is it in the city? Is it further away? Do we need to think about parking, walking distance? Is it on the 17th floor? Is it on the first floor? Just to make sure that we're gonna be on time. So we want to give ourselves a little bit ahead of time if there's traffic. And if we're really early, we're gonna sit in a coffee shop. We don't wanna show up 20 minutes early, because that can be annoying.
That's right.
But to make sure we're like 10 minutes early. That's the first thing, that we're not stressed out, coming in, all freaked out, stressed out, and bringing that lovely energy into the client. So that would be first. Then how we're dressed. Obviously, we want to dress professional. We're not going to walk in with jeans. We're going to dress professionally. Our posture, what we talked about yesterday, our handshake, our eye contact, our tone of speech, what we're going to say, how we're going to say it. And then, let me see which one comes first. Oh, and the day before, we will make a phone call. And just to tell them, to remind them that we're coming, we'll be there at 2 o'clock. And to ask them if they're still okay, if they still have 20 minutes of their time that we can sit down with them. Just to make sure that that's them and that they know we're coming. Also, when you have a parking meter, make sure you have enough money that if you do have to stay there for an hour, you're not feeling like, I gotta go.
Yes.
Yeah.
And you don't want tickets to eat into your profit.
Right, there you go, right? Yeah, exactly. And of course, because we were paperless, we will bring in our iPad and have our brochures, our pictures and everything on an iPad that we could show, but if there was no time, we would have a brochure that we could leave behind, where we can have before and after pictures, results of big companies where we've done the big moves, all the boxes of paper that we've gotten rid of, so that they can physically see how much we can get rid of, that they don't have to physically move to the new location. There would be obviously testimonies on those brochures, but we can also offer that during our session when we talk to them. If you have more questions or you want to talk with people that we've worked with before, I'll gladly give you those referrals. That's it.
I wanted to actually mention something that we talked about a lot for that, that call the day before, whether
Yes.
it would be an email, an actual call,
Okay.
or a text.
Good,
And we
yeah.
had a lot of debate about what we thought would be
the best.
the best mode
Yeah.
of communication
Yeah.
to confirm that appointment.
Okay.
So we kind of tossed that around a little bit. I don't know if anyone else has any thoughts about,
Let's throw that out to the rest of the group. What do you all think?
To confirm the appointment?
to confirm
Yeah.
the appointment.
I would do a phone call, that's what I do.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I don't know what's best. Barbara would do a phone call, I would do an email.
Yeah, I typically would do an email too, right? But it's the same thing what Lori just said. I hate calling people because I hate people calling me when I'm working. So it's like, okay, what do you do? I don't think there's, I think a phone call does make give it a personal touch.
Sure.
I don't, it's personality, so you never know what the other
Yeah.
person is gonna think.
But
or feel
also,
like.
if you've already made if you made the appointment, that's the time in my mind to say, okay, I'd like to follow up. Do you prefer that I make a phone call or email you the day before?
There you
And that's
go.
what I've done with a lot of people said, how do you prefer, would you like for me to call? Oh, gosh, no, please email me. Okay, text me. I love you. That's what I wanted to do.
Ooh, I like that. Get the text because then you get their cell phone.
Right.
That was, I think, your idea.
Yeah.
And the only other thing that I picked up in terms of what you said there was just confirming our appointment tomorrow, looking forward to seeing you,
Yeah.
rather than confirming our appointment tomorrow, making sure it's still okay with you, because, oh, no,
Yeah.
yeah.
That's
Yeah.
the backup
clause.
And don't
Right,
ask
don't give
them for their, don't,
Don't ask them to come
They don't have
back.
to-
yeah, they don't even, you're just saying, I'm confirming.
Yeah, I'm just
Yeah.
confirming.
Either.
Yeah.
That's good, good.
Yeah.
Good catch on the words.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Use the words intentionally.
Okay.
Yeah, good.
Were you gonna say
No, it was the
something?
same thing I was gonna say, it's like the first contact with somebody, I always ask them how they want me to communicate back to them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
I
and
love
that's what they
that.
get.
I do too. Again, you're looking to differentiate yourself from everybody else and, who's asking people that? Not many.
Yeah.
Well, because I actually had a client who said to me, do you mind going back through Facebook? Because that's how she had contacted me, and I was like, well, sure.
Right.
She said, well, I'm just not on my email, and I don't like to text, and
Yep.
that would be easier.
Good.
Yeah, that's
Who would have thought?
Right, 'cause that wouldn't have been your first.
Yeah, it wouldn't have been on my list
Yeah.
of choices right now, but.
Yeah, but that's really
That's how we
helpful to
communicate.
know.
Yeah.
Because again, I bet everybody else is doing something that's not convenient for her.
Right. And that's what it was about, was making sure it worked for her.
Yes.
Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly.
This is all about them.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that with them, what's in it for me is what's in it for them.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. What else? Was there anything else?
Yes, we had showing our brand was basically
The elevator.
the elevator.
Yeah, the
speech.
branding, we figured that was what we talked about
Sure.
in all of
And then-
this.
And then what questions?
Then we
And
had
then
a
the
few,
tough one.
few additional questions.
All right.
And this does not look like an outline.
No worries. You all are doing great.
Well, one of the questions we wanted to ask them would be, what are your concerns and expectations for the move?
Yes.
What would the perfect move look like to you?
Inspiration question. Good.
And then a future question, how do you envision your, I don't know,
Your building, your office.
situation
Yes.
3 years after the move?
Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
What are you looking for down the line?
Sure.
Some of the things regarding SharePoint, are you already using SharePoint? Have you already started the transition to SharePoint?
Good.
Do you
Good.
need help with sharing?
And if they said yes, we could ask, how and where, which departments are you using it in already?
Mm-hmm.
And how's it working so far?
Mm-hmm.
And if they said no, we said, well, are you needing some help with getting started with it or something?
Good,
So we
good.
can kind of explore that territory.
Mhm.
And then, of course, the legal issue question. What is your biggest fear concerning the legal issues? And kind of get a handle on that.
Mhm. Good, yeah. What I like about what you all just said was finding out if there are any other SharePoint users. Do you see an opportunity for yourself to penetrate into that company further? Do you see an opportunity to perhaps have a meeting with the users, the super users, if you will, and perhaps really get to know the insides of that organization? Make yourself indispensable. Maybe a consulting gig comes out of that.
Right.
And that just came from you asking the questions.
Yeah.
I have an example right now with a company that I'm working with where they started using SharePoint, but they're not using it well at all. And I asked the executive director to give me the name of the employee within the company who was the strongest user.
Right.
And now I have an appointment with her.
Good.
So then I'm figuring that she's gonna be my advocate, but I'm also gonna be hers because she wants other people to do it and she's having a hard time.
There you go.
So I can help her be successful at the same time.
Outstanding. Wonderful. Anything else?
Jocelyn?
Could I share something about questions that I read this morning, actually? Alan Weiss's monthly newsletter, I don't know if anybody else reads it.
Yes. Yeah.
The laziest questions in the world are, what should I have asked you that I haven't? Or what else can you tell me? Or what other thoughts do you have?
Yeah.
He says, I never answer them, develop specific, high-interest questions. And I thought that was very valuable.
Yeah.
To share that with them.
Yeah, so what wasn't so great about those first questions? Why were they lazy?
They're just so vague.
I don't want to do the work. I just don't want to do the work. You do it.
You do it, right,
Yeah,
exactly.
and you get somebody really obnoxious and snappy will say, well, that's why I called you in. And then you're embarrassed and you don't feel so hot about it. It's hard to recover from that, but they're absolutely right. And, we don't want that to happen to anybody in this room, so that's why we're going through these exercises.
Yeah.
Anything else from this team? May I say you did an outstanding job. Did everyone learn something from this? All right. Good job. You feel more comfortable approaching companies now? Yeah. All right, welcome team number 2. Could someone kindly read the scenario for us so we know what your mission was?
Okay, I'll do that. Our scenario is this. We've been contacted by Michelle, who owns Translating Services Company with 20 employees, and she claims she used to be organized until her baby was born 2 years ago. The company is very fast growing, and they have no time to figure out systems. Her husband is a partner, but he's more disorganized than she is, and he's skeptical about the whole thing. She's hired other organizers, but it never lasted, and the employees are rolling their eyes, here we go again. So they are challenged to find 8 hours.
All right, thank you.
So our research about M&M translation services was where are they located? So we did Google Maps, we did a Google review of their website and Manta, and we wanted to learn more about what they did. We looked up the owners on LinkedIn to see who they were connected to and who they were doing business with. And it turns out that we found it a little easier to put an actual scenario together. And so what we decided was to use an example from an area where I've lived, and two local hospitals have merged. There's a prison system that's just about to open a new judicial center, and so the call for translation services is probably fueled by that happening. So they need to provide services in many different languages, and it's a 24-hour service, and there's call-ins to the company happening regularly. So I think that's
Yeah, we struggle a little bit about what is a translating services company? And so we defined it as the translating, like for patients who don't speak English in hospitals
And in the judicial system where you have a non-English speaking
Yeah.
defendant.
Sure. Good.
Okay, so we worked on the elevator speech, which was difficult as well. And we came to this version. We said, hello, we are a team of productive, oh, I'm sorry, it's the English. Hello, we are a team of productivity consultants who work with rapidly growing businesses to evaluate, implement, or improve systems for management of space, time, and information, so you can increase productivity and efficiency, so you can accomplish your work and enjoy your life.
Good, good.
Yeah.
Did you all hear benefit statements in there? Yes.
And we had a discussion bit about, do we only address them as business people, or do we sort of try to get the family thing in, and we settle on this, on the accomplish your work and enjoy your life. So, because it's a
After
family
thinking
thing.
for a while, we were like,
Yeah.
we already have that statement. Why are we looking at
It was too bad somebody didn't come up with that.
And you can always ask them, well, what does it mean to you to enjoy your work and your life? And you're going to get some kind of answer that's going to have all that richness in there, and that is, again, part of your discovery process. Good, good. All right, thank you.
Dagmar, are you going to talk about decision maker too?
Yeah, I think this next one is yours. That one is yours.
Yeah, identifying the decision maker.
Yeah, so we weren't, from the description, it wasn't sure who's really the decision maker. It's her company, but he is a partner, and he is skeptical. So we made it clear that we wanted to both to be present. So we wanted to talk to both, and we would ask to try to find it out by tell us more about the roles you each play and how your management is structured, and we wanted to make sure that we invite and include the husband in all the discussions.
Nice job. Did you guys hear how tactful that was? So you're not going to offend anyone. It's inclusive. And for all you know, there could be other partners that are off-site that they may say, hey, yeah, you know what, Billy should also be here. Let me give him a call. Nice, nice.
So just to kind of, the scenario that we went with is that we had a scorecard, that's how we know some of the things that we've had. So we've already created an appointment. We're going into a live face-to-face appointment, just to kind of bring that up clear. And then what they've answered in terms of the roles, tell me if I'm getting ahead of myself, is we made it really easy. They have two really distinct different roles, and we'll get back, that'll play into it as we move on. So as we come into the meeting, what we'll start with is what sometimes people refer to as an upfront contract, it's not a written contract. And Casey may have a better word for it, a better term for it, but it's sort of a summation of, here we are, this is what we're going to do during this next 30 minutes, and then set the stage for what the outcome is and get agreement on it.
Nice,
right?
nice. That's
okay.
it, perfect.
So we would basically be saying, thanks for having us in this morning. It's terrific to meet you. Want to check in with you and confirm we have 30 minutes and that still works for your schedule. Terrific. During this time together, we're going to take a look at your scorecard. We want to hear from you and respond to any questions that you have. Then we'll all have an idea if it's time to move forward, choose a time to begin, and choose a time to begin the project together. How does that sound to you?
Nice, nice, nice. So what did you all get from that? And yes, indeed, it is an upfront contract because you're putting that out there and asking them to confirm that it's still okay. And sometimes I say, is there anything else you'd like to add, or has the situation changed since we've spoken? Because you want to find that out now. What other takeaways did you get from that? Nice job on that.
I think the way she brought it up was she's not saying it, but she's showing the confidence that there's gonna be an agreement.
Right.
Yeah, well, this is the lady who assumes rapport,
Yeah.
right? So I think
She's learning that.
by osmosis, we're all getting that to assume that. Yeah. And again, it's brisk. It really it sets the tone for the rest of the meeting, does it not? Yeah. Good. Nice job.
Okay, so the next challenge was to talk about how we'll build rapport, and we talked about the fact that we would do that right when we got there. We wouldn't wait until we did the contract and everything. So we would come in, we'd ask about the 2-year-old, ask if they have any other children, maybe say, I have children myself, how old are yours? Kind of get into that. Mention any connections that you learned during the research ahead of time. Maybe mention any rewards or any publicity you saw that they had, congratulate them on that. Then say, we've had the opportunity to work with a business similar to yours, maybe based on an award they received. Connect to the struggles of the work-life balance that the wife is obviously going through and working in a rapidly growing business as well. Also connect to the frustration of the husband, and we talked to the fact that men don't necessarily connect with how do you feel about this, or so maybe connect more with men don't often feel overwhelmed, they feel more frustrated, so we can connect more with that frustration.
Good distinction.
Be more direct with him potentially than you would with the woman. And then ask them to tell us how they got started in the business, to kind of give us a basis for the vision later on. So we can say, let's go back to that vision you had when you started the business. So that's all part of the building rapport.
Nice.
Where am I? That's right there?
Wrong glasses.
They're not going to help me read in the least.
Oh, great looking lanyard, oh my. Very nice.
Okay, blind lady can read now. So, my portion is to just talk about branding. So, we're going to a workspace, so we're going to dress professionally. And we were a little concerned about the husband's pushback, because we already know that he's resistant to us coming in. So we talked about having some preset objections already answered.
Yes.
What are his objections going to be, and let's prepare for that. And that's going to be part of how professional and we're going to appear with our branding. So we want to be approachable and non-judgmental, practical, and show our expertise in our systems as part of our brand. So, even having those objections planned ahead, you're gonna not be fumbling around and still come across extremely professional. And really focus on how we can motivate them to move them forward, and that's looping back to that original vision that we talked about. And being able to put a bow on that at the end, and just getting the team on board. So professional, and have every question already anticipated and answered.
Mm-hmm. Can I just say something about that? When working on a project and potentially partnering with either a business owner or a big company, what's a good question you could ask to find out the climate there? Like you're talking about somebody having pushback. Mm-hmm. How could you find that out in advance so that you are prepared? What could you ask?
In terms of are you talking about kind of the culture of is that what you mean?
Not necessarily culture, but how individuals might be feeling about the prospect of what you're going to do. Would it be important for you all to know that?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Big time.
Well, and just the fact that the employees were rolling their eyes, right? There's already resistance on them. Mm-hmm. You've got resistance from the husband, and how do you break those walls down and then turn it into something exciting rather than an eye-rolling situation?
All right, let me ask you a better question. If you did not know that already, so it was in your scenario, it was given to you, but if you didn't know that, what would you possibly ask?
You could maybe say, does your team know that you've contacted me?
Yeah,
Or do they know I'm coming? Or
something like that.
Yeah, what else? You had your hand up, Elizabeth.
Asking about past experiences. So have you had a consultant like myself come in before, and how did that go? What were the results?
Sure. Yeah. Joss, were you gonna say
No,
something?
no, so that's my first question.
Ah! All right, I didn't mean to steal your
No,
thunder.
that's okay. Well, we might, I'm just thinking about this now, we might investigate as part of our research, what's the employee turnover been like?
Good question.
So if there's been a lot of turnover,
Yeah.
and it's because they're not happy, then that might be a red flag.
Yeah, and to really explore that using your nice tactful questions. Well, might I ask why, if it's all right to just explore this a little bit with you, would you be willing to share some of the reasons why they're leaving? 100 people leaving in a month, is that a significant number for you? Yeah, that's what I would say. Well, gee, is that a significant number for you? Yes, it is. Oh, well, could you share a little more about why? What's happening?
How would you find out that, I don't know, I'm ignorant on how you would find out what the turnover in a company was? I mean, where would that information be?
Without asking them.
You probably would need to ask them. And it might not be the first question that you ask. Building out trust scores. Whoa, lady. So you've had, building that rapport. And again, you can position, hey, you know what? In order for me to really be somebody who's valuable to you, it would really help me to have some more in-depth background. So let's talk about the culture, and let's talk about turnover, if we can just explore that for a minute. What's going on here? Tell me how many people are leaving. I see it. Are you finding that they're from one specific area in the company, or is it company-wide? Wow, okay, is that a significant number for you? Well, if you could retain some of those top people, and have the company really firing on all cylinders, what would that look like for you? Do you have an ideal target number for retention? Have you envisioned yourself how you're going to get there?
Casey, forgive me, but I just have this vision of you, because you're just so sweet, that of you like getting after the end of that call at their office, like leaving a basket of homemade muffins.
That's part of the rapport building.
Yeah. Bring food. Bring coffee.
That does work.
Yeah, it does work. That's true. If you know what they like, you stop at Starbucks on the way and say, pick it up, and it's still hot when you get there. Oh, baby. Yeah. All right, nice. Let's keep going.
Okay, we have a series of questions that we would ask, not necessarily in this order and not necessarily all at once. They would be woven into the interaction, but we would ask the question, we understand you work with other professional organizers. Tell us more about what didn't work. And we noticed on your scorecard, and we would pick out the challenges that they had. The largest challenges that they had, and ask them to tell us more about those challenges. What did they score low on? Tell us more about that. What are you unable to do because of the situation you're in? We thought that was a very important question to ask. And you've also mentioned that you can't commit to 8 hours. What would it work if we did 2 4-hour sessions, or could we work with each of you individually for 4 hours? And what other solutions might work? Your original vision for your company was so compelling. How do you see your business moving forward once these challenges have been addressed?
Nice. Yes.
And we would also walk them through the 5-step process with those questions, and ask them, what's your opinion about what we've talked about? Does it make sense to you? Then we would discuss next steps. When can I follow up? When would you like to start? How does that sound? So,
Very nice job.
our questions.
Good. Yeah, good. What else? Is that it? Because you hit branding, right? You just talked about that. Okay, good.
Andrew.
Yes.
I have a quick comment question. I've heard a couple times, I think, I'm not sure about both scenarios, But as far as differentiating, maybe rephrasing the question of have you worked with other professional organizers, because you're putting yourself in with them, you're aligning yourself with them. You need to, you're a consultant, a specialist. So maybe how can we rephrase that? Have you worked with
anyone else to work on this issue?
Okay, okay, and then they could say, yes, I hired a professional organizer. Then you have an opportunity to say, oh, well, let me show you how I'm different. I'm a consultant and I work with a team. So maybe something like that.
Powerful, yes.
That works.
Absolutely.
I like it.
I like it too. What else? Any other insights for this team? And what else what else are you all getting from this?
This is such a common case.
Yeah.
Well, I want to point out something that I think is really significant.
Please,
here.
yes.
Okay. I think that one of the things that keeps people from moving forward is their fear of how big a project is. And I know that I've had that experience myself. So one of the ways that I got over this was you actually turned something here that could have been an interaction with one person that you are completely comfortable with into something much bigger that you didn't have to do. So the difference between a scorecard, you actually got into, when you were dealing with this, you actually got into what would have been the scorecard for the organization. This case study was set up to be a scorecard for the individual. So the fact that her husband wasn't on board was completely irrelevant, really. I mean, it was okay that you did it that way, and there's nothing wrong with that. But that might be too scary for some of you, especially if you've been mostly in residential. This is a whole different thing. So an easier way is to say, you know what, we're not worried about what your husband thinks or what your secretary thinks or what the receptionist thinks or anybody else. We're talking about you. This is about you accomplishing your work and enjoying your life. This scorecard is about you. An 8-hour miracle is an organizing intervention for one person in one office, and it doesn't have anything to do with anybody else. And so if her husband rolls his eyes or the secretary, so what? It's about her. And then I'm very comfortable with that. I can deal with one person. And if I do it and I do it well and she likes it, guess what? Now it's like, well, wow, that worked. You know, I've had that happen many, many times where there have been all kinds of organizers coming here, like, okay, here we go again. And then wonder how many weeks this will last, how many days this will last, you know. And then it's like, wow, it's lasting, you know. So now you have an opportunity to go back in and say, do we want to do an 8-hour miracle? I mean, I think what will happen in this scenario is kind of based on one that I did. And I think what will happen next now is potentially her husband, we could say to her husband, would you like to have an 8-hour miracle for your office? Okay, so but then if the two owners both do an 8-hour miracle and it lasts, now we can talk about let's do a scorecard for all 20 people in the company. Now then we're getting into the 7 information management questions. What information do we need to keep in what form? Now we're getting into the whole big picture. Wow. So I think it's important that you grasp this, that you don't, I mean, if you're not comfortable dealing with groups, you can structure your company so that all you ever deal with is the one-on-one person, which isn't any different than when you were organizing their office, their home office. That isn't any different. And if you wanted to stay there, if you figure the average fee for an 8-hour miracle is $1,200, well, how many of those do you have to do in a month to have the kind of income you want? And if that's all you ever want to do, that's perfectly okay. That's a viable business. And then you partner with somebody else who wants to do the big picture, and now, you know, you've got all kinds of opportunities. So I think it's important not to make this bigger than it really is. It's kind of what you were doing with SharePoint. It's like, oh gosh, I've got to understand SharePoint. No, you don't have to. And no, I don't know how to deal with the interaction between husband and wife. You don't have to. You're dealing with the wife.
Good.
And I think this is really, really significant in how you build your business, because you can build a profitable, sustainable business by doing nothing except 8-hour miracles. Now, if you switch over and do a productive environment day, you're going to get $3,500 for the day instead of $1,200. But it just depends on what you enjoy doing. Maybe you don't enjoy doing that, and that's perfectly okay. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Nice work. Let's give them a round of applause. All right, so did everyone come away with some insights?
Definitely.
Again, you are an incredibly talented bunch, And I don't want you to forget that. So anytime you feel a little nervous about something, draw on that power, because you do know what you're talking about. And you don't have to know everything. That's what other experts are there for. You're a specialist, not a generalist. So call on the other experts. All right, let's rock it out. Here's what my vision is. We want to give you an opportunity to put this all together and to practice. So I'm thinking I cover content until about 11:15. We're ending at 12, is that right?
We've got 2 people leaving at 12 and we have
Model, results. What did we cover yesterday? It's up here.
Roll out and engage and survey.
Yeah, we did the R, E, and the S. So we're up to the U. It's all about you. Unleash your capability. Demonstrate it. All right, so indeed, we're now at the phase of the call where you've posed your questions. And those were excellent questions that I heard this morning, right? Now what you want to do is start to pull it all together and show your customer how they can get where they need to get with your knowledge and your expertise. You know what the pain is, you know what's not working, and you want to show that you are the right person in the right place at the right time to help them, right? You're not pushing product. So, you know, I have worked with people who've said, oh my gosh, I just really don't want to be one of those salespeople that have, well, I got this and I got that. And it's not that you're doing that. You're being consultative and you're recommending an appropriate solution based on what you've heard, based on the intelligence that you've gathered, right? So you may start to solve their problem by outlining specific features of what you have, benefits and advantages. So who's had any exposure before to the differences between features, benefits, and advantages? We would call it FAB, F-A-B. Anybody at all? Yeah, Judy. Judy, anybody besides Judy? Okay, great. So this is going to be really important to get this and to nail it so you can rock out your sales call. All right, I think we know this already. Unleashing capability, why is it important? Well, it's a summary of your selling points, and what we've also been doing with our time together is collecting those differential advantages. Where do I stand out? What makes me different from my competitors, right? We've been doing that as well. So you want to start to bring this together. You're not going to give an oral dissertation because we're not talking brochures anymore. That went out in 1972. Nobody wants to hear that. It's all customized. So you're going to, again, customize your response. How do we define a feature, benefit, and an advantage? For those of you following along in the guidebook, what page are we on, please? 23. 23. There you go. All right. Well, let's take a look at that. What do you think? What's a feature? Yeah.
Can we just take an example?
Please.
Okay, so take the Swift file, for example.
Yes.
The feature of the Swift file is it has all these uniformly spaced tabs that tell you the days of the month and the months of the year. That's a feature.
That's a feature, yes. So it could be maybe an inherent characteristic of something, right? Okay. What about a benefit?
Same thing. The benefit.
So the benefit tells me what's in it for me to use that.
You don't have to move any file to be able to see the number.
Great. Yeah, so then I'm starting to link why that's important, why I might need to know that. And an advantage, are you familiar with what an advantage is? It's kind of a customized benefit, if you will. Let's look at the definitions here.
Keeps the scraps of paper off your desk and organized in a system.
Absolutely. Provided that that's important to me. All right, so here we go. There's the definition of a feature. It's a characteristic. It's kind of like a fact. There's a benefit. It describes how a feature meets a need. So if I'm concerned about those papers on my desk, then I'm going to be concerned about, hey, this helps minimize the amount of paper that's on your desk. Keeps you productive because you can find everything you need at a moment's notice. Advantage is really powerful because it links a specific benefit to their concerns. Here's an example. It's on page 23. Feature, the car has 4 doors. here's the benefit. The car's 4 doors enable you to enter the car from either side. That's a good thing. So, if I have to shoo the kids around the other side because I want them to be safe and not go into traffic, well, then that's a good thing, right? Here's an advantage. The car's 4 doors enable you, your spouse, your 2 children, and your dog to enter the car easily. It's perfect for those trips to the woods and soccer games. So what did that advantage do?
Personalized it.
It sure did. It completely customized it, didn't it? So why is it important to know this? Well, let's go on further. At the bottom of page 23, let me see if I've got that on the PowerPoint. First of all, you want to be concerned about passing the so what test. So a feature-laden presentation sounds like a data dump to your customer. They don't really care about all that stuff. And when you throw out a lot of features, they might be thinking, oh boy, how much is that going to cost? There's a lot of stuff in there. Oh gosh. So make sure that you are indeed paying attention to the advantages. At the bottom of page 23, let's go ahead and read that. I'll read that. The stereotypical salesperson, the person in the plaid jacket, the loud jacket, okay, it's feature after feature after feature after feature. And you might want to pay attention now to TV commercials to see how many features you hear versus the benefits. I don't care about that. It's got to answer so what, and the so what has to be important to me. So here's the example. Here's a feature-laden presentation. Let's talk about the 8-hour miracle. This is a day where I come in and I work directly with you. It's 8 hours in duration. You'll be able to discard a great deal of old files and paperwork. You'll really be able to organize this office. You can then put your data on the cloud. Okay, it's all right? It's okay. So they're thinking, okay, sounds technical, might sound like I kind of have to do a lot of work. Let's look at the next page. Here's a balanced example of what I just said. Let's talk about the 8-hour miracle. Bless you. This is an extremely productive 8-hour period where we work together to achieve your goals of preparing to migrate data to the cloud. So you hear in there a feature, a benefit, and an advantage. The feature is telling me what it is. Extremely productive 8-hour period. Benefit, we're going to work together. And what's the advantage? We're going to help you migrate to the cloud because that's what they told me they want to do. All right, next paragraph. You will be able to discard a great deal of old files and paperwork. In fact, one of our customers was able to discard 2 tons of paperwork in one 8-hour session. So we're really going to be able to organize your office and only migrate the data that you need. Powerful, right? There's a benefit in there and there's an advantage. It's a customized message. You're then going to be able to run your office more efficiently. You won't ever have to worry again about being on the road while your team is at home, struggling to find critical information. Can you envision what this life would look like?
Yeah, that's the last part.
That works, right? Rather than just the feature data dump. Who cares? Show me how it's going to benefit me. Yeah, Dagmar.
I'm wondering, because I sold sportswear in the 90s, and I sold it to men and to women.
Yeah.
And I found out that while the women appealed those advantages for themselves, like with a raincoat, you wanted to be rainproof, and with the women you talk about all this, advantages, benefits, features, just a bit feature.
Yeah.
And with the man you only had to talk about the feature, that it has got this pressure, it's a number, and you say this, and the higher the better. And then if you start to sort of explain in their perception what it means to them, they got angry.
Oh, really?
They felt like, do you think I'm dumb? I don't know that this is, So I would like to hear your opinion about this.
Know your customer. Know thy customer and customize thy messages accordingly. Right?
I just have to know it, and so.
So if you've been working with men and they seem to be kind of bottom line, Give them the bottom line first, and if they want a little more, well, this means that you could do blah, 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 blah.
Okay.
For me, I want to know, will I smell good, and look skinny? I want the whole thing, right? I want it all. So tell me, otherwise I'm thinking, oh, that's kind of, all right. Doesn't really move me,
Yeah.
right?
It's the men, women, it's also cultural.
It can be cultural as
Because
well.
in Europe, they would deal with this totally different than
Yeah.
how we do.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
And if you find I had an experience recently, if you find something that is their hot button, stay there.
Yes.
Because someone was trying to sell me, it was actually coffee, but it was a thermogenic skinny coffee, which is actually good, and I like coffee and I like fat burning. So I was happy there, and I was really interested, and she did take my order. She went on to show me other things they had and other, additional, blah, blah, blah. And I was just like, blah, 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 take my order. And I had to do my order myself. She did follow up incredibly well. Her follow-up was excellent, but she could have lost me as a customer at the beginning.
Which is actually kind of a corollary to what we were talking about at the beginning with the 8-hour miracle scenario.
Yes.
It's like we could have stuck with the 8-hour miracle with that one person, but by trying to expand it, we may have lost the sale. So it'd be better to stick in and be successful with that, which is what she would have done. She said, oh, let's order the coffee, and then follow it up and say, well, you like the coffee? Right. Here's another thing we have. What do you think about that? It's exactly the same scenario.
Good point. So no one to smell the sale.
Yeah.
That's what my district manager said to me when I was 27 and working in that company where I was unsuccessful. He said to me, I'm not sure that you know how to smell a sale, and I didn't. Because I went on a call where the customer had a check ready to pay for the radio. Remember two-way radios? I couldn't tell one from the other. I shouldn't have been selling in the first place. And I started to do a whole presentation from the beginning. And my manager who was with me said, when they have a check, you don't need to do that. Now I know I'm not talking about that here. I know I'm not. But still, if you see the body language change and they lean forward and their eyes are lighting up, was there something I said that really interested you? Well, then let's go there.
Right.
And then you can have a whole funnel of questions that deal with that one thing. And if they say, hey, you know what, that sounds good. All right, then you go ahead and write up that order. Don't spend any more time. You can tell them later about all the other good stuff, or you can show them, hey, on my website, here's where you can go to find out what other resources you can get. You don't have to tell them everything. Right? Make sense?
Yeah.
Okay, so FAB. Everybody got the differences of FAB and when to use each?
Yeah.
Then let's go ahead and move on to towards and away statements, which is just fascinating to me. Talks about how human beings are wired. Anybody ever heard about this before? All right, maybe it was called something else. Once I talk about it, you've heard it. So being able to identify your customer's dominant buying behavior is also going to help build that rapport and again make you approachable, even more likable than you already are, and you're a heck of a lot likable. All right? You want to find out whether they're motivated towards something, like towards goals, or are they more motivated to stay away from pain. They're avoiding risk. They're avoiding downside. For some individuals, the very nature of the profession might give you a clue. So Elizabeth, working with lawyers, they probably want to minimize lawsuits. So they may be an example of a customer who's motivated by away. So let's look at this in more detail. And we're on the bottom of page 24, for those of you who are following along. All right. So do their statements sound like this? I want to be able to run my business efficiently with a great team in place and have enough money to pay everyone a year-end bonus. Wouldn't that be nice? Yeah. Or do they say something like, I don't want to come into the office one day and find that everybody's about to quit because the morale is low. I'm afraid of not having enough money to retain good staff. So what's the difference between those two? What jumps out at you?
The first one's
Towards? First one is more positive, isn't it? More goal-oriented in terms of something positive that I want to attain. And then the other one is talking about what I want to avoid. So if you listen to people, there's going to be little clues that they leave, just like Hansel and Gretel. right? Little breadcrumbs that they're going to drop that gives you an idea of how they're motivated and how they're wired. So if they use an approach strategy, what if you did the same and talked about the satisfaction they would derive by using your service or solution or product? You would then give them a picture about the time, the financial freedom that they would get, the energy they might derive as a result of hiring you. Now, if they're looking for that avoidance, we're talking about risk and downside around here, we don't want to be sued. Well, then perhaps you talk about how your solution helps them avoid the pain of the downside, right? Fear of loss. So talk about that. Well, hey, I really get it. So let's talk about that. Let's start to work around how we can help you, minimize those downsides. Make sense? All right, good. You're going to hear them talk about their preferences when you ask your questions. You're really going to hear that in the inspiration questions, consequence questions. People who are looking to minimize that risk are going to really want to hone in on those consequence questions. They're going to ask you often 2 key words. What are they? What if? Well, what if this happens? What if that happens? What do I do when this? What do I do when that? Right? And it's a subtle way to make them feel more heard. And again, then you really know where to focus your energy and your dialogue, your discussion. Make sense? You like that one? Okay, subtle. You think you're
Years ago, I remember hearing somebody say people buy out of 2 things, fear or greed.
Absolutely.
Which is kind of the way you put that. The fear is moving away and greed is moving toward. That's a negative way of saying it, but
Yeah, and what makes them happy? Maybe they can sleep at night because they don't have to worry about, any threats. Or maybe they can sleep at night because they're so excited about what they're going to do in the future. Anyway, so what about you? What about you personally? What gets you going? Are you more apt to move away from pain? Does fear of loss get you going? Or do you prefer the upside of situations? It's an interesting insight, isn't it? Can I hear from a couple of you what you think about yourselves? Yeah, Abnay.
Go towards motivation to something better.
Okay, good. So she says she's motivated to move towards.
I think it depends on the situation.
Depends. Okay.
I'm an away gal.
Yeah. Me too.
I avoid, I don't want, that's why I know this is why I'm a terrible procrastinator, because I don't want to get into a situation that's going to be painful.
Okay. Yeah.
I think I'm an avoiding person too, although something that really bothers me is all the media and all of or political stuff that says, this is going to happen to you, this is going to happen to you. That's what I fear-based. I really do not like that fear-based. So then that makes me think, oh, well, maybe I'm not.
Well, I think it also, in that example, maybe it depends. I do not watch news, period, dot. Because that's what it's about. They're fueling that fear and making us think about all those things that are kind of negative. But when I hear myself sometimes, I'm like, oh, shoot, I am kind of away. Because I'm like, well, honey, I don't want to be sitting in traffic. I got stuff to do. Well, honey, I got to prepare that final draft for Andrea. I got to get home. I don't want to be wasting time. And I'm like, oh, my goodness, listen to you. Rather than I'd love to get home early so then I could work on my project. I don't say it like that. And so now I know myself. So, all right, shall we move on? Oops, went too far. All right, so that pretty much was the unleashing capability, where you're starting to use your critical thinking skills to put together what you know about your product or service and marrying it to their situation where they told you the pain and you're talking about how you'd like to help them move further. Next step is the L, where we listen. And this is so significant that I'm going to ask for volunteers to, on page 25, read what it says. So there are 4 paragraphs there. Could we get 4 lovely people to read what this says, because it really is critical. Judy, thank you. Okay, Judy, and then, who was that? Okay, Tracy, then Marge. Okay, good, we got her.
It goes without saying that the operative word in this critical step is listen. Listening means actively listening, being fully engaged and focused on your customer. It should be reflected in your body language. Additionally, please try to hear your customer out without assuming you know what they are going to say. Please refrain from interrupting, forming an answer in your head while they are still speaking or tuning out. Also, wait a few beats after they have spoken to reply. In this way, you will be able to respond to objections and questions. Stay out of your head and stay with them.
All right, please, second paragraph.
One element common to sales consultants everywhere is that we all encounter objections. For some, objections represent a welcome challenge to demonstrate capability and expertise while exploring our customers' needs more fully. For others, they are enough to make you run for cover of your home. Objections may put you on the spot, cause you to get flustered and lose confidence. Become comfortable enough with objections so that you manage them while retaining your sales posture.
Thank you. Who's next?
Objections may not mean your customer is rejecting you personally. Objections can mean that your customer needs more information. They also can mean that we have presented too many features and not enough advantages. And we have unwittingly caused the objection ourselves.
Yes, yes. Joss?
Is it possible to overcome objections? Objections are a natural occurrence in the selling process. You have no control over objections arising. You can only manage what you say and do. Additionally, watch your butts, as you may appear to challenge your customer without acknowledging their opinion. I've heard even the most seasoned professional hit an objection head on and say, yes, but.
So what are you taking away from this little tutorial, if you will, on listening? Anything jump out at you?
Objections are opportunities.
Yes, objections are opportunities, yeah. Yeah, great. What
I
else?
have a friend.
Yes.
I was thinking the first paragraph about the listening.
Yes.
This lady is the most awesome listener I think I have ever known in my life. When you're with her, she asks questions. She is totally and completely engaged with what the other person is saying. She makes me feel like I'm the most important person in the world when I'm with her. And she does this with every single person that she meets, all the time.
Sheesh.
And she just amazes me.
Yeah.
But it really, really makes a difference. Of course, it makes me feel like, why can't I do that sometimes?
Did you ever ask her how she's managed to train herself to do this?
I don't know if she has always been like this or not.
Yeah.
But she had a brain tumor.
Ah.
And I think partly now, at least, it's because she's processing more slowly because of the brain tumor.
Yeah.
And I don't want to have a brain tumor.
No, that's right.
But I think she might have always been that way.
So that's,
she's a teacher.
She's a teacher. God bless her. That could be a gift that she has. I still maintain that it is something that we can teach ourselves to do. And it may not be the easiest thing. My district manager would say, Casey, you have 2 ears and 1 mouth. Use them proportionately. Right? Please do.
And this is, again, if anybody's considering hiring Casey as a coach now or in the future, please do, because what she's done is Barbara will record her sales calls with permission. And she'll send Casey the recording of the sales call. Casey listens and points out the points where Barbara may have jumped in and interrupted, or she was processing and didn't catch something, maybe a personal comment. That was a big one. Somebody said something personal, and to really zero in on that. So that's an incredible, helpful thing that you're doing. To record and listen back and give feedback.
And, we all get excited. We all get excited about what we have to offer in our solution, and we're like, oh. So maybe just hold on to that a little bit and let them finish. And Marge, that was just so right on, because you felt so special in this other person's presence, who just really, again, she makes it all about you in that moment. You know, you're the most important thing right then and there, and that's what we all want to do. It ain't the easiest thing in the world to do, especially to shut off that voice that's in our head that's always going, okay, get the kids, get the milk, stop the theater, blah, 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 blah. So we want to dial that back and really listen to their radio station. Yeah.
Yeah, I like the 3 beats, because for me that's a system.
Yeah,
so
good. Does that mean that I am getting it?
Yeah.
3 beats. So wait 3 beats. Boom, boom, boom. And then you can say what you want to say next. Yeah, I like that. Thanks. All right, so does that make sense?
Yes,
Let's talk a little more about objections. Boy, I used to be scared about this, because I would say, okay, I know I can do the presentation. I know that I can stand up and speak, but what if they ask me stuff? Or what if I don't know? And, oh gosh, what if I get a heckler? But I with practice, you get really good at anything. So, alrighty. Is it possible to overcome? We talked about that, right? You have no control over what they're going to say. I see books about, handling and managing. They're going to say what they're going to say. So just please try to prepare as much as you can in advance for that. So I think group number 2, you were ready for the husband, right? And what he might throw at you. So yeah, as much as you can. So what might an objection mean? Well, it could mean a question about something you said. Maybe they misunderstood. Maybe they didn't hear you. It could be that they're interested or curious, or it could be a stall. So let's explore that in a little bit more detail. Objections might fall in the following categories. All right, here we go. Perhaps they didn't quite understand the value that you had to offer. So there's a question about the perceived value. Could be a lack of urgency to take action. They don't see why they might want to address the mess in the room. Could be perception of inferiority to a competitor. When we may not do as good a job demonstrating the capability or unleashing the capability as our competition, they might say, well, so-and-so does this. Why should I hire you? Maybe there was a misunderstanding there. They might not have the money. Could be a personal issue between decision makers. Well, we just had that in the scenario, right? So you might want to figure out what's going on there and how important is it for everybody to be on board. It just might not be that important. Status quo is safer and it's easier. Barbara, I know you have something to say about status quo. It's okay, because she says very often our own, our own worst enemy would be that people stay in the status quo. And that's, with change and the whole study and psychology of change, that's what it is. It's just easier to stay where I am than to go through all of this upheaval. And there could be a misunderstanding about a product feature, right? They just didn't get it. Oh, does it get that? Well, so-and-so's project get that. Why is yours better? So what I'd like to ask you to do now is list the top objections that you hear when you're selling your solution. And we're going to scribe these. I'll ask for somebody to help scribe when we're going to put these down as a whole list. How about we take 5 minutes, each person individually, and list what you're hearing. All right, so we're going to do something with those in a moment, but not quite yet. So hopefully everybody has a couple so that we can really dig into those and play around with those. And again, this is to help bolster your confidence when you hear these objections. Maybe we don't all have the same one, so you can start to build kind of a repertoire, if you will. All right. Keep going. Okay. You may have noticed that after you've been engaged in selling your service or solution for a while, that you hear a pattern of common objections, right? After a while, it's like, oh, the brain searches for familiarity, and if it's heard that before, your brain will go, I've heard this before. And after a while, you're going to be comfortable because you can bucket them. Okay, well, this has to do with that. Well, that has to do with that. And it's almost, remember I said a script is something that you're saying over and over again because it works. You're going to start to draw on that script to manage these objections. So because you might be more comfortable, just again, be careful of being automatic with your response. Hear them out, let them finish, even though you think you know where they're going, because at the very end there might be a twist, and you want to make sure that you've caught it all. Resist the urge to defend your position, and I don't think that this is a worry, but it's a perception on your customer's part, because it's not a battle. It's not like you have to wrestle your customer to the ground and I'm going to beat that objection away. It's not really that serious. It could just be something that they just didn't understand. It's not a battle of wills or wits. All right. Let's talk about 2 useful skills that help you when you're answering objections. I love these. You're probably doing it already, but let's review it. Cushioning statements and refocusing. And what they enable you to do is to break the objection down into little bite-sized pieces so that you can really answer it. So a cushioning statement, what is that? Well, it might be something like, yeah, I see. I see where you're coming from. How so? Tell me more. It's neutral, so you're not agreeing, well, your prices are the highest on anybody of the island. Yeah, you're right, they are. You're not doing that, but you might be, tell me a little more about that. What makes you say that, right? It also enables you to gather your thoughts. Because I know probably for the first 6 months that I sold and I got an objection, my heart was racing. The adrenaline was flowing. I was like, oh gosh. So it lets you still have that poise and that confidence. So you can use that cushioning statement, and what do you think you do immediately afterwards? Listen. Yeah, don't say anything. Now, I'm a person, when I get nervous or flustered, I turn into a clam. I say nothing. Others start talking. And they feel the need to kind of justify. Well, so don't say anything. Let them process. Let them process, all right? You're going to get a lot more information out of them than if you interject, or just, let them go through whatever their process is. All right. Refocusing helps take the sting out of the objection, because again, when they throw you an objection, let's just say it's true. You don't want to say, well, yeah, you're right, it really is true, it really is expensive. No, you're going to refocus them. So you will recite the things that they liked about it to minimize the importance of the thing that they're objecting to. It's looking at the big picture. Then let's talk about what's most important to you. You said you like this, 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 and this. So in the grand scheme of things, is this really that important to you? They may say, you know what, you're right, we're only doing that once a month. Okay, great. So then can we agree that we're going to proceed based on the fact that you like this, 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 and this? They'll say, yeah, that's okay, right? So you're going to kind of be a neutral observer rather than really so attached to your solution. Let's see what it says in the handbook about this. I want to just make sure I'm covering everything. Yeah, I think you did. Okay, on the bottom of 26, there is one thing I do also want to say. Ask if there is anything else that you should be concerned with before you start to summarize and move into the solutions phase. Because you don't want an unanswered objection to bite you in the decision phase of your call. When you're in that solution phase and that decision phase, man, it's like a freight train going through. And you want to just clear up any misconceptions while we're here. So what are some of the things that you might say to kind of wrap that up before you move into the next phase?